Hey guys, I have somebody here who is a real-time embedded engineer, and he says that if he doesn't expand his skill sets, that means he's doomed as an employee his entire career. So I guess with embedded engineers, you gotta constantly be updating your skills because technology changes over time. But that's to be said about a lot of technology-related professions. To be honest with you, you got to be on top of things. Although I have to say, in the web stack, in the web space, dynamic websites, web apps, etc., the technology has matured quite a bit in the last 10, 15 years, and it's been pretty stable the last 4 or 5 years with some minor exceptions. It's been pretty stable, more stable than it's ever been in its history. But this is the normal cycle of any industry. The industry starts, lots of changes, and as things mature, it levels out. The whole web stack has really leveled out quite a bit. So he has 3 questions. I like nice, succinct bullet points in the email sent to me. You're much more likely to get a response out of anybody, including myself, if you keep your questions short and to the point. So number 1 question, a couple of months ago you mentioned earning potential for freelancers. So I was wondering, questions about earning potential for freelancers. Here it is. Number 1, what in your opinion is the differentiator between 300 and 300-hour freelancers in terms of skills, knowledge, and branding? All of the above. Yeah, so what makes you go from $30 to $300? Well, it depends on the type of projects that you work on. It depends on how skilled you are. Somebody who's just starting out is not worth the same price as somebody who's been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years. There's no way. Why? Because the beginner is going to make mistakes. The beginner is going to work much more slowly. The beginner's end product is not going to be as clean, as sophisticated as somebody who's been doing it for 4 or 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years, and so on. In time, as you develop your skills as a professional developer, regardless of the type of work that you do, you're just going to become much more efficient. You're going to have better workflows, which means you're going to get stuff done much more quickly. Now, when you go out there and compete as a freelancer, it's very rare that somebody's going to actually hire you on a per diem basis, especially with the first big project. What does that mean? They're not going to pay you by the hour. They're going to ask you what your per hour rate is, but actually what they're going to do is judge you based on the total cost of the project, because small businesses, these are the people who typically hire freelancers, they are going to want a fixed price for their project. And that situation there, that fact that most small businesses, medium-sized businesses, are going to want fixed prices for their projects, therein lies the opportunity to get a lot more money for your time. And that comes out of workflows, internal efficiencies on your parts, leveraging frameworks, using your own frameworks, and just managing the project and your clients very effectively so that your per hour rate really increases. So for example, when you're just starting out and you're charging $20 an hour, let's pick a number. You're working at a certain level of efficiency. So it may take you 30 hours to produce a project in the early stages of your career. But as you become more mature and you develop all the things I just talked about, all of a sudden what took you 30 hours to do, you can now do it in 10. So you're working at 3 times the efficiency. You see what I mean? And it could be even much more so than that. With me, in my last couple of years as a contractor developer, I was working at tremendous speeds compared to what I was in the past. And for a few reasons. A, I had my own framework, which I knew like the back of my hand. So I was able to get things done so quickly. I had great workflows. I just knew what I was doing. And I also steered my clients properly so that their projects aligned well with my workflows and aligned well with my framework. When possible. Not always the case, but it can be done a lot of times. But this is a subject of probably a whole course could be done on this whole thing about freelancing, maximizing freelancing earnings. Anyway, question number 2. What kind of pathway towards becoming a web developer would you suggest to someone like me with at least some core knowledge relevant to web development? Also, which of your courses would you recommend? Well, My interactive web developer course is like 10 courses put together. Just do that. And what you want to learn is your core, your foundation first. That's HTML5, CSS3, the JavaScript, the PHP. I teach PHP for server-side because for freelancers, PHP is by far king. By far king. So many small businesses depend on PHP, like 80% of them. So you want to make a lot of money as a freelancer, you got to know your PHP. But the great thing is you learn PHP, and in that PHP course, I actually teach server-side programming. So all the lessons that you learn in PHP apply to any other language that is server-side programming. If you don't know what that is, that's the programming that you do on the web server, if you will. Anyway, I'm not going to teach that here. You can check out my course. So the path is to learn your core, so you have a deep, good understanding of the core languages. Next thing is to put up a site to showcase your talents, make sure it looks good, and then to do 1 or 2 freebie gigs or cheap gigs just to start developing your skills in terms of working with clients. It's one thing to build a project on your own through a tutorial or for your own site. There's another thing to actually work with clients, get requirements, set up the contracts properly, set up the expectations properly with the clients. That's a big part of the job of being a successful freelancer. And if you learn to manage clients and projects properly, it goes back to question number 1. How do you get from $30 an hour to $300? That's part of it. Managing clients, managing expectations. Question number 3, how stable is freelance income for web developers with different skill levels? Well, like any other business, it's not stable in the beginning, but that's a short window because once you've done a few good projects for small businesses, guess what? Small business owners, they have many other friends who are small business owners. And they'll tell their friends, and next thing you know, you're going to have tons of work. It's usually the case. This is how it is. If this was a graph, it would go like this, not too much work, not too much work. Oh, lots of work. And then, oh, much more work. It just works that way all the time. I've been teaching people web design development since 2003. I've been mentoring people since that time as well. And it happens time and time again. It's like one of those universal things. It always happens. When you go freelance, that's the process. In the first year of freelancing, it's a little bit spotty depending on how many contacts you have. But it starts to pick up, becomes more and more consistent. Over that time, you're developing your skill sets. As a developer, you're developing workflows, you're understanding your frameworks properly, you're learning how to manage your clients, you're learning how to manage projects. This all comes into it. And then you'll see very quickly it will start to escalate in terms of the amount of money you're going to make. And you'll be surprised how quickly this can grow, especially if you implement the right strategies right from the get-go. Again, like I said, this is not something I'm guessing at or something I read somewhere. I've been doing this since the 90s, and I've been mentoring people. And actually, in fact, some of my students who went on from freelance to some have gotten really good jobs after that because they decided they prefer working for people. Some have went out and started companies where they were VC funded. I've had a couple, 2 or 3 at least, that I know of. So there you go. Just a superficial look at freelancing and how that all works out in terms of earnings and consistency and so on. Let me know if you find this whole freelancing end of things interesting for you. Bye-bye.